Throughout history, wealth has been both a blessing and a curse. It can build civilizations or destroy souls. Few figures embody this tension more clearly than Mammon, a name that has come to symbolize greed itself. But Mammon was not always imagined as a horned demon clutching gold. His story stretches across ancient languages, pagan gods, medieval theology, and moral philosophy. So today, we journey into the shadowy evolution of Mammon, from a biblical warning to a medieval prince of hell, and finally to a timeless symbol of humanity's struggle with desire, power, and excess. The word mammon originates from Aramaic, an ancient Semitic language spoken during the time of Jesus. In its earliest form, mammona simply meant wealth, money, or material possessions. Importantly, Mammon was not originally a being, a demon, or a god. It was a concept, wealth personified as a force that could dominate human life. This idea enters Western consciousness more powerfully throughout the New Testament, where Jesus warns, "You cannot serve God and mammon." Matthew 6:24. Here, mammon represents wealth elevated to the status of master, demanding loyalty, devotion, and obedience. Over time, this metaphor hardened into something more literal. Early Christian theologians began to treat mammon not merely as money, but as the spiritual force behind greed. Wealth was seen as morally dangerous, not evil itself, but corrupting when it became the object of worship. Church fathers such as Augustine and Jerome described Mammon as a false god, a rival deity, and a spiritual tyrant that enslaves the soul. This laid the foundation for Mammon's eventual transformation into a demonic entity, especially as Christianity sought to personify sin in dramatic visual terms. During the Middle Ages, Mammon was fully personified as the demon of greed and avarice, associated with the 7 deadly sins. In medieval demonology, Mammon is often described as the Prince of Hell, a high-ranking demon governing avarice, a tempter who lures humanity through wealth, luxury, and power. Unlike demons of chaos or violence, Mammon's evil was subtle. He didn't force corruption, he seduced. Mammon tempted kings, merchants, clergy, and peasants alike, whispering promises of comfort, status, and security. Medieval texts and art portray Mammon in various ways. A bloated figure weighed down by gold, a miser clutching gold coins with clawed hands, a crowned demon seated on a throne of treasure, and sometimes depicted as chained to wealth, suggesting greed enslaves even its master. Gold, jewels, and vaults often appear around him, not as rewards but as burdens. Mammon was not portrayed as enjoying wealth but suffering under it, a visual sermon about the cost of unchecked desire. In some demonological hierarchies, Mammon held the title of Prince of Hell, ruling over material temptation. While rankings vary between texts, Mammon is often placed alongside figures such as Lucifer, which is pride, Asmodeus, which is lust, Leviathan, which is envy, and Beelzebub, which is gluttony. Mammon's domain was wealth-driven corruption, bribery, exploitation, usury, hoarding, and moral compromise for profit. He was believed to tempt humans into valuing gold over goodness, contracts over compassion. As Christianity absorbed and reinterpreted earlier religions, Mammon became linked to pagan gods of wealth as well as the underworld. Dispater ruled underground riches, both gold and the dead. Since precious metals come from beneath the earth, wealth and the underworld became symbolically connected. This association reinforced Mammon's infernal status. Wealth from below, riches tied to darkness, and material gain linked to spiritual loss. And Plutus represented wealth and prosperity, often depicted as blind, symbolizing wealth's randomness. Christian thinkers interpreted Plutus negatively, portraying blind wealth as morally indifferent, rewarding vice as easily as virtue. Mammon absorbed these qualities: blind distribution of riches, prosperity without morality, and abundance divorced from wisdom. Mammon appears prominently in later literature like Dante's Inferno. Mammon is directly represented through the punishment of the greedy, who push heavy weights endlessly, symbolizing the eternal burden of wealth. And then John Milton's Paradise Lost. Milton portrays Mammon as a fallen angel obsessed with gold, one who prefers hell with riches over heaven without them, the architect of hell's golden structures. Milton's Mammon is brilliantly industrious and utterly corrupted, a demon who turns even damnation into an economy. Beyond religion, Mammon functions as a psychological and cultural archetype. He represents obsession with material success, identity built on possessions, fear of scarcity, and the illusion of wealth equaling worth. In this sense, Mammon is less a demon outside us, but more a force within the human psyche, the voice that says, more is never enough. In modern language, Mammon is often used metaphorically to criticize corporate greed, exploitative capitalism, materialism, and the worship of money as an ultimate value. The ancient warnings remains unchanged. When wealth becomes the goal instead of a tool, it becomes a master. Mammon survives not because people believe in him, but because they live by his logic. Mammon's true power was never gold itself. It was the belief that wealth could replace meaning, that security could replace faith, and that possession could replace purpose. Whether seen as a demon, a fallen angel, a pagan echo, or a psychological symbol, Mammon remains one of the most enduring figures in spiritual history because greed is one of humanity's oldest struggles. In the end, Mammon does not demand worship through prayer or ritual. He asks only that we place money above meaning and call it success. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope you found it entertaining, enlightening, or in some way beneficial. And if you did, help me out by hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even share the video with a friend or two. All right, everyone, take care. Peace.